Comedian Luenell recently made headlines after she announced on her Instagram that she kicked her daughter, Danelle, out of her house for not taking coronavirus, COVID-19 seriously. Because Luenell, she basically said it was the best decision for her and her husband because her husband suffers from COPD, which is a serious pulmonary disease. So if he got COVID, it would not be a good idea. And I'm sure Luenell told this to her daughter, who is of age. She is in her 20s.
20.
How important, yes, how important this is. She'd rather spend her time with her boyfriend and her friends. So she was not social distancing. And Luenell says she does not regret the decision because she did put it on Instagram and people kind of dragged her daughter. She does, however, regret putting all of their business out on Instagram. But she doesn't take her decision back, even though that is her daughter. So I'm curious to know, what do you ladies think about this?
I 100% agree with what Luenell decided. I 100% agree with kicking your daughter out. If you live under my roof, I don't know if anybody else's mother told them this growing up, but as long as you in my home, you're going to abide by my rules. Yep. And it is what it is. And I also do agree with Luenell on regretting the fact that this went on Instagram. I don't think that everything needs to be posted on social media. So I agree with her on regretting that. And I think in this time, obviously, me and my husband are family planning, and I'm always thinking about like what it is that I would do when I have a daughter. And one of the things that is most important to me to instill in them is the value of family and what that means. And I pray to one day have a daughter that would say, you know what, my family comes before my boyfriend. Sure. Like, I don't know. I was raised that way. Like my stepfather, I adore my stepfather, my Papa Joe. Like I would never, ever do anything to compromise his well-being and his health. Yeah. So again, you have to wonder, what are the values that you've instilled in your children, because that ends up playing out in the future.
Yeah, what she's telling everybody is that her friends and her boyfriend are more important than her mom and her dad. Exactly. So I would say if she was my daughter, I would be like, okay, if that's what you think, why don't you quarantine with your friends? Why don't you quarantine with your because we can't
let them feed you during this quarantine. Let them buy the groceries.
There needs to be an actual disciplinary action to teach these younger people, because to be really honest with you, 3-4 weeks ago when the quarantine happened, I got really frustrated because I think that the misconception that went out there about younger people not being able to get the virus, that is what really jacked us up and pushed this quarantine as far as it did. Spring break, Mardi Gras, the whole thing, right? We saw it. So just think about that. So we have to. So I applaud Luenell with Lonnie's applause machine to let people know like this is really what's real.
Okay, you get an applause. You want an applause?
Please, okay, now, thank you to you, Luenell.
This is how I feel about it. It started at the beginning. First of all, when I read the story, she said that she was going over to different people's homes. So I don't know necessarily if she was actually quarantining with her, but she would go over there to see her. The issue that I had, because I understand Luenell is in her 60s, and at the time when it very first started, it did seem like it wasn't hitting the young people. So a lot of young people weren't getting it. Like you said, Tam, the spring breakers and people like that. The issue that I do have, and maybe it's a little bit deeper, is how we forget that when we post things about our family members, it's worldwide.
Yep.
And the type of trolling that her daughter got, because what happened was she said she called her daughter to tell her, but she was asleep, she didn't answer, and so she got emotional and she just posted it. And I think this is a lesson that sometimes we get upset, but we have to remember there are people all over the world looking at your post. Yeah. You have thousands, millions of people. And when it's talking about like your daughter, your fathers, your son, we have to remember that everybody's not thinking the way we're thinking.
Yep.
And so I'm glad that she, came back and said, I regret that, because her daughter shouldn't have to go through that trolling. If you wanted to post it, maybe post it on a Facebook that was private, and then that way you could get it out. But we're celebrities.
I hear you, Lonnie.
People are coming at you differently.
I hear you. And I understand when it comes to family situations, you have to be careful of the repercussions from the public that aren't as sensitive when it comes to your family members. However, I don't know about trolling, but anybody who is reacting to a person who is moving about and not aware of the vulnerable that's inside of your house, especially when your father has a disease that affects his respiratory system, that deserves a reaction. I think that I have to be honest with you. I had to check my family members.
It doesn't reserve a reaction from the world. Like, she got the reaction that she deserved was from her mother, and her mother told her she
correct.
Absolutely.
And the reality is that people have come to now think that it is okay to troll. Like, that's why I'm so with you, Lonnie, on like, when we put stuff out there, you know, we are oftentimes, even when we put ourselves out there, like, you have to be conscious of like, wait, am I prepared to be trolled about this? Because once you put it out there, you know, you're inviting the reality, which is that everybody now feels like they should be able to say. I remember when the young woman remember this young woman who had claimed to have been kidnapped? Remember when it came out that like she actually had not been kidnapped? She was like it was a whole story that took over the internet. Everybody was trying to save her.
They showed the footage of her getting snatched. Yes.
And she was like 16, and you know, we don't know the story about why, but listen, hilarious. People were literally like, I have a right to troll her. You know, people literally are saying that. Like, I have a right to troll her. I have a right to be upset. I have a right to be angry. And it's like, that's scary to me that we live in a world where, to me, the response would be to Luenell. Like, to me, my response would be like, damn, Luenell, I'm sorry you have to go through that. Like, that is frustrating. Not to compile onto the other person. And shout out to Luenell because she is a master black